Climate change is a real and serious issue.
I agree that carbon dioxide and the issue of global warming is a real issue, is a serious issue that demands our attention and demands an appropriate response.
Get a little cooler or get a little warmer like it always has for millions of years.
Climate change is real. Climate change is caused by human activity.
Another threat to our country is climate change.
Climate change, a change in global or regional climate patterns. A problem happening since the 19th century, dumping CO2 in our atmosphere. How could this happen? People have been burning fossil fuels since the Industrial Revolution, which began in the 18th century. People didn't start realizing what they were doing to the environment until the late 19th century. At the time, it wasn't such a big issue, but due to the increase of people and demand for fossil fuels, it started to impact the environment. Earth's average temperature has risen by 1.5 degrees Fahrenheit in the past century and is on track to rise another 0.5 degrees Fahrenheit to 8.6 degrees Fahrenheit in the next 100 years. Climate change since the 1950s has risen from 300 parts per million to a whopping 400 parts per million. Climate change has been affecting everything, from people to animals, from natural landmarks to lakes. The change is clear, but the solution is not. Many people are skeptical about this because people argue the fact that climate change has always been happening and even happened in the 18th century in places like Europe, as explained by the publisher of ClimateDepot.com.
New peer-reviewed studies showing the medieval and Roman warming periods as warm or warmer than today without our CO2 emissions.
Now, President-elect Donald Trump is saying that climate change is just weather and that weather changes all the time.
I think that there'll be little change here. It'll go up, it'll get a little cooler, it'll get a little warmer like it always has for millions of years. It'll get cooler, it'll get warmer. It's called weather.
He believes that Chinese are trying to take away American manufacturing in order to have no competition. He also says that climate change is costing us so much money and isn't even real. He used the 2013-14 winter as proof because it set records for the coldest winter. Another reason people deny climate change is because they don't want to change.
Well, for one thing, it would force us to have to change the way we live. Another thing, not everybody's ideas are based in science. It's a lot easier. Who wants to believe that we have to change the way we live? I mean, you like your gadgets, you like your cars. I think in order to make it any better, we would have to be doing a lot more walking, a lot more healthy things, maybe a lot more conservation. People might have to actually talk more about how they live, and yeah, I mean, it's just not easy. It's not easy. And it's not easy to admit that your race has made some mistakes.
97% of scientists believe in climate change, a problem they believe needs to be fixed now. One of the main facts that scientists go to prove climate change is real is that, as stated earlier, CO2 is rising rapidly. CO2 also happens to be a greenhouse gas, which contributes to the greenhouse effect. The greenhouse effect is the trapping of heat in our atmosphere. A counterclaim for warming happening long before the Industrial Revolution is the fact that it was regional and not global.
Those medieval warming period and the Roman warming period, those are just in Europe, and they're not representative.
Scientists believe that people are the main reason to blame for climate change due to the greenhouse effect.
The risk of climate change is clear, and the risk warrants action. Increasing carbon emissions in the atmosphere are having a warming effect. There is a broad scientific and policy consensus that action must be taken to further quantify and assess the risk.
The United Nations concluded that there was a 95% chance that human activities over the past 50 years has warmed planet Earth. Global climate change has affected our planet in many ways. It has caused glaciers to shrink, ice on top of lakes and rivers to break apart, and has caused planet and animal ranges to shift. In the future, scientists have predicted frost-free season will lengthen, precipitation patterns will change, there will be more droughts, heat waves, sea levels will rise, and the Arctic will have no ice. We talked to the mayor of Apopka and asked him where he thinks Central Florida will be in the next 50 to 100 years, and he said,
Well, we're pretty hot in the summertime, just over my lifetime. I don't know if it's because I'm getting old or if it's actually getting hotter, but it feels hotter in the summertime than it did when I was a kid, when I was your age. And so Central Florida, we have to deal with heat. There are some scientists who say that storms are stronger because of global warming. We certainly live in a state that can be affected by hurricanes, and so we may have to deal with stronger and stronger storms. We may have to build up our infrastructure in order to deal with those stronger storms. So one of the things that happens when a hurricane comes is you tend to lose electricity. Electricity, which is carried on those power lines can be damaged, and so restoring electricity after a hurricane is often a really big task. They had a terrible time in Tallahassee after one of the big storms earlier this year. So we may have to harden our infrastructure, and there's a term out there called resilience. And so communities across the state, communities in Central Florida, Apopka, need to figure out how to become more resilient to deal with issues that are created by global warming.
It can be concluded from the evidence above that climate change is a very real and serious issue. Its causes are extremely prevalent, mainly from human interaction with the environment. Even more importantly, climate change will have a large impact on the future of planet Earth's environment. From the future non-existent glaciers in the Arctic to the new extremes of natural phenomena such as droughts and floods, we must acknowledge global warming and make changes to our way of life to ensure the harmful effects will not ruin our beautiful planet Earth. Thank you.